All right, we're going to Maiden the FMS Cessna. Put a new receiver in it, so need to go through the process. So in this video, I'm going to go through kind of everything I do and everything I'm thinking about when I'm maiden one of these planes. So first, we're going to go into the shop. I'm going to kind of go through just a lot of stuff about what's important during the maiden, and then we'll actually show the maiden, and hopefully it'll be educational to you. Hey, if you like this stuff, hit that like button. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Welcome to the shop. We're going to talk about how to maiden a plane. Those of you who've done a bunch of them, well, you know how it is, right? It's a stressful thing. Those of you who are new to the hobby and have had somebody else kind of maiden your plane for the first time, but now you want to do it on maybe your second plane, or it's your first plane and you don't have a buddy to help you. Here's what you got to go through. So the ultimate goal, remember, the ultimate goal is to have a plane that flies perfectly level, straight, without a gyro and without your hands on the controls. That's the goal. You know, everything else piled onto that, now it gets into the tuning, the rates, the expo, the center of gravity, things like that. But I'm going to go through all of those things that I do to get my plane tuned, not just the maiden, but subsequent flights to get it dialed in. So I'm going to show you that. Stick around. Let's talk about the pre-flight check. And it's a lot more than you think. First, of course, you know, the first thing I would say is be very critical of your control surfaces and just looking at them to make sure they are perfectly straight and even. If you have two servos in your tail, make sure when you go up and down with your elevator that those control surfaces are exact. They go up the exact amount, they go down the exact amount. Make sure that everything like that is set up properly. Have somebody else take a look at your plane too, especially on the control surface direction. Make sure they're looking at it, because there are times, I kid you not, where it's just, sometimes we don't look at it correctly. If the plane is upside down and we hit the elevator, and the elevator looks good. Up is up, down is down. Yeah, we forgot that it was upside down when we did that check, and now it's reversed. I've been there, done that. So have somebody else take a quick peek at that. Now you got the control surfaces all level. The control surfaces are working the right direction. How are your rates and expo set up? I like to have 3 rates and a lot more expo than normal, just because I'm a bit of a spaz and I want to be able to control the plane. I don't mind if I got to get into the controls a little bit more to make the plane turn. What I really don't want is it oversensitive and I'm having a hard time controlling it. And I've done that too, and that's not a lot of fun. So having rates, multiple rates, I usually do 3, and having that expo is helpful. The other part, when we're talking about control surfaces, the gyro. Two things with the gyro. One, absolutely, positively make sure it's on and going the right direction. And 2, you have a switch that you can turn it on and off. Because when I first maiden, I don't use a gyro. Now, if you can't fly off safe, there's some challenges there. If you have to be on safe, you really can't trim the plane well. So there's a couple things you might want to think about. Either A, have somebody else maiden it for you, which isn't a bad idea until you learn to get off safe, or after you make your circuits and you're going straight, take safe off, do some trimming, flip it back on, do another circuit, and continue to do that process. If that's the only way you can do it, then do it that way. But some systems, especially Spectrums, you cannot trim in safe. The reflex from FMS, you can trim in stabilized mode. So now we got the control surfaces working, the gyro's working, everything's good there. Center of gravity. Where's the center of gravity? And double check it. Make sure that the battery is strapped in good and that you have a solid center of gravity that is what the book says, what the manufacturers say. They typically are going to be a little bit more on the nose heavy side, lean that way, because that plane will fly. It'll fly. Whereas tail heavy, it's a goat rodeo and you don't want to go there. So center of gravity, next thing, range check. Please do a range check. Walk back 30 paces, go into range check mode and do a circle around the plane. Make sure the control surfaces are working no matter what the orientation is, because sometimes that's different. If there's any issues, if you're looking at the numbers and you're like, wow, that's off, that's not working well, don't fly, fix it, and go back and check it again. Another thing, timer. Make sure your timer's on, make sure it's set, and go less time than you think. Go on to YouTube or RC groups, read about what people set their timers and the amount of milliamps that they have in their battery. Because I'll tell you, if it's below freezing, that battery's not going to work so well. So it's going to drop quicker. Have your timer, your initial flight, have your timer set a little earlier. Just a little safer. Unless you have telemetry, where you can flip a button like I do, got videos on all of that, where I can see what the voltage is. Because if I know the voltage, I know how much time I have to fly, and I feel a lot safer about that. So those are the pile of things on the checklist, the pre-flight check, all those things for a Maiden, to get me, now I'm ready to fly. Now I'm ready to get this plane up in the air and go through the process of trimming. So let me go through that. I've got a plan before I go up in the air. And the plan is very specific. The first goal is getting the plane up, getting a little over half throttle, depending on the type of plane, and trimming it, right? And I don't have the gyro on. Typically, my gyro is not going to be turned on until I get the plane trimmed perfectly. Now, this trim can change depending on when you start messing with center of gravity, if you want it more fore or aft. But for the first flight, let's get it trimmed nice and level. Again, weather plays a big part in this, right? So you want to do this on a nice day. So we got it now all trimmed up. Now here's a couple things. After the trimming is perfect, now I go into the flap. If my plane has flaps, a lot of the beginner planes won't, so you don't have to worry about this. But that's where, and just did a video on the fly flap trimming, easy way to get your mix for your elevator down. You might, through the manufacturer, it might say you need your elevator to go up or down based on your flaps, millimeter, 2 millimeter, whatever it might be. So you might be okay there, but you can still do some fine adjusting with that on-the-fly flap mixing. After I've tested that, now I want to do a couple stall tests. Because remember, now we're up in the air, we have to land. That's not an option. Everything, all this other stuff is an option. We got to land safely without breaking our plane. So doing a stall test, what that allows me to do is how slow can I fly it before it drops a wing, or does it just mush? I don't know. Let's find out. So I might do it without flap, without my gears down if I have retracts, and then I'll do it with gears down, with flaps on, full flap. What does it look like when I fly slow? Because the next step on this, for me, is either, depending on time, is either start making some landing approaches, and I'll make several landing approaches just to come in to see how's my speed, is it stalling, is it looking a little funky, can I slow it down? If I know I have a little bit more time, I will do a CG test. The thing with CG is you do need to go inverted, and that for some is terrifying, and you're not going to want to do it. On some high-wing planes, if you go with the manufacturer's suggested CG, you're going to be fine. But those of you who know, if you have a plane, an EDF, or an aerobatic plane, you need to figure out what that CG is. And the only way to do it is flying inverted, either level, or doing a maneuver where you're going at about a 45-degree angle, roll over, and then neutralize the elevator, neutralize that right stick. If your plane drops this way quickly, it's nose heavy. If your plane tucks up and goes up, you're tail heavy. You'll also know that's tail heavy because it's going to fly like crap. So anyway, and there's variations in there. Ideally, for most of my planes, if I fly inverted, I want to be able to just add a little bit of down elevator to compensate for it wanting to dive so it flies level. I like just a touch, a hair of that forward pressure on the stick to make it fly level. That's how I like it. So now we got the gyro or the CG all set. At that point, I'm going to turn the gyro on. I'm going to flip on a gyro real quick. Again, if I have time. I'm going to turn the gyro on and I'm going to make some abrupt left and right aileron moves. I'm going to do some maneuvers to see if it gives a little twitch. If it's a little twitch, my gains are too high. If it's oscillating uncontrollably, turn it off, right? The gains are too high. Start making your approaches, come in for landing, make your changes. And that's the part of it. This is a process. But that's the plan for me. Trim it, flap mix, stall test, CG, make some approaches, test the gyro. After I land, make my changes, and I go up and do it again. All right, now let's talk about the actual Maiden. like I said before, you're going to be quite nervous. If you haven't done many of these, it's a very stressful process because you don't want to crash. Having somebody help you is critical. It really is very helpful. And to show them, if they don't know how this stuff works, it'd be better to have somebody who knows what's going on. But if you have nobody, but all they can do is press, they know those where the trim switches are, and they can help you with your aileron trim and your elevator trim, sometimes that's enough. Really. Just somebody who can help you with that and kind of spot for you and kind of give you some confidence, because you're going to need it. It can be stressful. So going through that plan, getting it trimmed out, take your time. The only thing you have to do is get this plane flying level and then land. And landing is a big thing. Too many times we rush the landings and then we damage it. We run off the runway, we flip it over, we break the tail. Something, rip off a landing gear, something, because we didn't give ourselves enough time. Be conscious of that time and practice several approaches. Because again, you can then make changes and say, you know what, I didn't do a CG test, I didn't do a stall test. That's okay. Get a fresh battery, go back up. You're going to learn something about the plane every time you go up. Just that kind of thing. And again, I wanted to stress that if you are flying AS3X, you need to be off safe in order to trim. And the way AS3X works, if you have the gyro on, okay, you make your trim adjustments and then let go of those sticks, basically, don't give input, and then they register into the plane, and it helps with the way the gyro works. I do not have a gyro on while I am tuning up my plane. I don't. And then I'll go through the gyro test and gains and things like that. But that's just my process. Again, take your time, and remember you got to land this thing. So give yourself plenty of options on landing. All right. So I'm going to go through the example now. I'm going to kind of go through the whole process on this Cessna 182. Take it up, go through the simple process, a couple things just to kind of show you what I do. Hey, one thing you're going to notice, does it roll straight? Because if it doesn't, you need to make some changes, because that's real exciting when you touch down and your plane's veering off to the left or right because of your nose wheel. All right, let's get her up in the air and get her trimmed and flying good. As soon as I take off, I can tell she needs a little up elevator. So I'm reaching over. I like to try to keep her in close so I could really see what's going on. All right, how's my elevator now? Probably a little too much. And she's banking a little bit. She's banking to the left, so I'm giving some right trim. Let's see how she looks coming through here. I'm pretty happy with that. I do not have a gyro in this plane. So tuning this with a day like today where it's totally calm is pretty nice. All right, I'm good with that. Now let's work on the flaps. Got to slow down a little. Hit flap. And she wants to climb. So I'm going to use my on the fly trim that I set up. Pretty happy with that. Maybe a little bit more down. And now landing flap. Go through the same process. Now with the flaps, I'm under half throttle here, because typically you're not going to be zipping along with flaps. You're typically going to fly kind of slow. All right, I'm happy with that. That's pretty good. Pull the flaps up. Now I want to do a stall test. So I'm going to pull back on the throttle and lift up elevator. Full elevator, no throttle. And she just kind of drops down. That's good.
Takeoff flaps.
Let's see what she does with a little flap. Again, backing off throttle, elevator, elevator. And look at that, full up elevator, and she just kind of glides. Some planes aren't as nice as this from a stall perspective. Some are nasty and they'll drop a wing and you'll need some altitude. I'm kind of low here. I'd get up a little higher depending on the plane. Yeah, full flap, same thing. She's fine. So that's the stall test.
Flaps up.
All right. Let's check the CG. Since I don't have gyro, I'm not going to mess with that. And if I let off the stick, she noses down a little. That's okay. If you're not comfortable with going inverted, there is another way. So as I described in the shop discussion, there's this one, overhead throttle up, and you can see that she just kind of wants to go down. I pulled up through, did a split S there, but the other option you can do for center of gravity is get her up, pitch 45, and what does she do? Does she start leveling off? So she didn't level off, she just went down 45 degrees, which means to me the CG is pretty good. If she were to lift up pretty quickly, that would mean she's a little nose heavy maybe. There's a couple options, and there's a lot to learn about center of gravity. On these high wing beginner planes, you set it where the manufacturer says to set it, and you're going to be fine. Okay, we've tested basically all the things we need to test. Check the battery.
Flight pack 14.9
Oh,
volts.
plenty of battery. Let's start making some approaches. Now, if I want to use a little flap, I'm going to do that. Get my approach, line up. I'm going to come right over the runway. See how she slows down. Okay, good. Throttle up. Do another circuit and try another approach. Maybe a little lower this time. Slowing down even more. Right here. Okay, looking good. Fly right down the runway, because I'm going to need, depending on the plane, you'll need that whole runway. On some of the planes, not so much. All right, now let's try to do a landing. If you want to do another approach, let's go full flap. Do a full flap approach. But I try to do several approaches just to get a feel of the plane. Okay.
Takeoff flaps.
And take another circuit. And by doing multiple approaches, I reduce the potential of damage.
Landing flaps.
Right? Going in nice and low, slowing down, bring her in. Oh, landed too early. Yeah, sometimes my depth perception gets me. I thought I was over the runway. All right, let's do that again. Glad the grass is short, otherwise this plane would not have liked that. Nose up, throttle, and she's down. All right, that was the Maiden. Pretty simple.
Flaps up.
Congratulations, you just finished your Maiden. But it's not over yet. I mean, that was just getting it trimmed, making a few tests. Now, first thing I would do, grab your battery checker, check the battery. How does that look? Do you need to extend the time, shorten the time, whatever it might be? Keep in mind also you weren't really wringing out the plane. It's not like you were flying it fast or anything. But think about that from a battery perspective. Note where, do you need to, did it feel like it was, you had to add a lot of up elevator? You know, that doesn't always mean there's a CG problem, and doing some of those tests will show you if that's kind of the situation. But again, if you're starting out, you got a high wing airplane, most of the time the CG is very forgiving. You can move that battery back and forth quite a bit. So work on your rates. Do you need to make any changes? Was the CG okay? If you're not quite sure, go up and fly it again with the same CG. Otherwise, you can make some changes if you want. Maybe you'll see a difference on slowing down at landing or stalling different. Do another stall test. The other part that I highly recommend, if you were flying Spectrum AS3X and you made changes to your servo by trimming or changing rates or whatever, relearn the servos. It's a feature in the gyro. You got to go into forward programming. Let me show you what that looks like. Go into forward programming. Go into, I think, gyro settings. System setup. Relearn servo settings. Apply. Complete. Okay, now all of my settings. All right, you made the changes to the gyro as far as in AS3X. If you're not flying AS3X or you don't have a gyro, you don't have to mess with that. Just keep flying it. It's an iterative process. You're going to continue to take it up, you know, and get it tuned the way you want. And really, the major tuning is the center of gravity. Playing with that if you want to. Some planes, you know, it works fine at the way the manufacturer suggests. Others, I tend to push back the battery a little bit, which moves the CG back, which allows me to slow down, do some things different on landings. And just performance. If you have a highly performant aerobatic airplane, moving the CG back allows it to be a little bit more, I don't know, sensitive or aerobatic. Nose forward tends to fly a little smoother. So whatever you like. Anyway, hey, if you like these videos, hit that like button. It does help me out a lot. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Love to hear from you on how you made. What are some of the things that I missed in my Maiden that you like to do in yours? If you're an experienced pilot, love to hear about it. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.